All right, so we're back on our rear brakes here. We're ready to reassemble it with the new pads. There is one specialty tool that does come in handy on a brake job, and that is this little caliper compressor. You screw it out, screw it in, screw it out, and it opens that caliper back up, so there's room for the new pads because they're quite a bit thicker than the old pads. So this does come in handy. You can do it with a C-clamp. Sometimes they don't always fit. I think there may be a ratchet style of these, but these can be had for usually less than 20 bucks at most part stores, anywhere you buy tools. So I would invest in one of these, especially if you are going to be doing a lot of different brake jobs on different vehicles. It does come in handy to open that caliper back up. So first things first, we got to put our bracket back on. Now, you want to take these old clips out because the new clips come with the brake pads. So you pop out these old clips. They just kind of pop it. There's a little bit of tension. They pop in, and then these, the bolts you took out to remove the bolts you took out to remove the calipers. These are what you want to lubricate. They pull right out. They've got a slide on them, and that's what the caliper slides in and out on. So you want to lubricate those. So let's get that lube, and we will grease those up real quick and then get this bracket back on so we can reinstall our caliper and new brakes. I like these little packets. They're kind of a one-time use. You don't have a bunch of stuff in your cabinet just collecting dust until you need it again, and they're super cheap. They're usually at the checkout area of most parts stores, and a good parts man will actually recommend you get some of this and throw it in with the order. But not all parts guys are trained the same, so keep your eye open for this kind of stuff. This and dielectric grease, like for spark plugs and spark plug wires. There's several different handy things that come in these little packets. So keep that in mind when you're doing, when you're going to buy your parts. There's always the extra add-on stuff that you need that's sometimes easy to forget. All right, so we're gonna pull this out, and actually you can see a lot of old lubricant is built up on this thing, so I'm going to clean this. I'm going to clean this with some brake cleaner first, and then re-grease it. I'll be right back. So anytime you're working on something and you're going to spray, keep in mind, brake cleaner is not that big a deal; it evaporates. But any lube, like if you were spraying WD-40 or PB Blaster or whatever, that stuff's going to drip on your floor. Then you got to clean it up. So grab a paper towel, put down some cardboard, anything, just so you don't make a mess on the floor. It's just something else you got to clean up. All right, we're gonna spray that down good. Kind of rub all that old lubricant off. Get that good and clean. you know, a lot of shops, a lot of guys who are just turning out work, they're not going to take the time to even do this, but it's just the right way to do it. Especially if you're going to put new lubricant on, get the old crap off. All right, so that one's clean. And find my lubricant. Okay, so that one's clean. We got our lubricant here. We're gonna spread a little bit on there. There we go. Spread some of that on there. Kind of rub it around with our hand. Get it good. And another reason I wear gloves, just keeps your hands from getting too yucky. Some of this lubricant is pretty sticky. So, wipe my glove off. And we'll stick this back in. And it just slides right in. Just like that. That little rubber cap, there's a groove on the bolt that attaches to that rubber cap. You just want to make sure it pops back into that. And well, there's the other old one, but that one's back in, it's ready to go. I'm going to clean this one up. Put the rest of this lubricant on the new pin. You kind of clean as you go, and you don't get grease all over everything else that you're working on. All right, so we'll pop this back in here, like so. Get it to seat good. And we're ready to put this bracket back on and then reinstall our caliper and new brake pads. Now, these old bolts that came out, they're a little cruddy, so I would spray a little penetrating oil on these just to clean up those threads a little bit. If you've got like a wire wheel, you can clean them up that way. Looks like these have some anti-seize or some thread lock or something on them, maybe from the factory. But anyway, I would clean these up a little bit. Anytime you put something back together, you want to think about the next time you got to take it apart. Just make it easy on yourself. Clean it up, lube it up, so it comes apart easier the next time. Right, so we got a little WD-40, and we're gonna take our rag here. Just gonna make a big mess. Spray these down a little bit. Doesn't take a whole lot. Get those lubed up good. And you want to start, I always start bolts by hand, just so start these bolts by hand. I try to start every bolt by hand. You can feel it if it's going to cross thread or that it's going in correctly. Just good practice. Once we get them started, get our ratchet back out. I've already made a fatal mistake. You have to put the rotor back on before this bracket. Dum-dum. So let's take this bracket back off real quick. You know, it's no big deal if you catch it quick. It sucks when you get the whole thing back together and you realize you left an important piece out. But let's take that bracket right back off and get our rotor. Not the first time I've done something dumb like that, and it won't be the last, I'm sure. So get our rotor back on. Now it just pushes on real easy. This is not a press fit, it's just a tight, close fit. So it pushes on real easy, and it's kind of rubbing on the dust plate there a little bit. That's all right. Okay, so once we got that back on, now it's time for our bracket. Now we can take our ratchet and tighten everything back down. And these need to be tightened. These need to be pretty tight. You don't want that bracket coming apart going down the road, you know, 1,000 miles from now. So you don't have to get the breaker bar on it, but you want to kind of lean into it and get those good and snug. Okay, so now we are ready to install the brake pads into the caliper and then put it all back on. And once you get the caliper back on and bolted down, it's going to, it'll mechanically locate this rotor, so you won't have anything cockeyed. Obviously, you want to spin the tire, make sure everything's spinning free, but it really, once you get the caliper and pads back on, this will locate where it needs to be. All right, so put that out the way. Here's our caliper. Now we're going to put the brake pads back into the bracket with those little clips that we have, and then we're going to slide the caliper right back over the top of that. So first, we'll put this caliper back down where it was. Support it there so it's not hanging from the brake hose. And we'll open up our new pads. Now sometimes the inboard and outboard pads will be a little different. In this case, they are the exact same. They are virtually identical. And I was wrong. It does not have those anti-rattle clips with it. It does have, these are the indicators when they get down too low. So we need to reinstall. Lesson learned. We need to put our clips back into this bracket. We should have took them out in the first place. That was my bad. So we'll just pop these right back in where they go. No big deal. It's just another step. But you don't want to leave them out, is the point. They do need to go back in. All right, so the way I took it apart, the indicator was inboard.
Still working on that thing?
Sure am.
How long is it gonna take you? I didn't have time to my costume on.
Yeah.
For so long.
Okay, so when I took these apart, the little wear indicator was inboard. I don't think it matters, but that's how we're going to put it back together. And it just slides right in around those clips, pops right in.
Ran over this and it came with me to the ramp.
Oh wow. Okay. Actually, there's indicators. Every one of these pads has an indicator, so it doesn't matter. So we'll just pop this one in. You just want to line those little fingers up on these clips. Kind of get the slots lined up, and they pop right in.
And then you won't get frosted.
Yeah. And these have some anti-vibration shims on the back. You want to make sure you get those put on too. All right, now we are ready to open this caliper up using our clamp, and I'll show you how we do that. We take our old pad, set it back in there, and then we take our tool adjust it down where it'll fit, and you slide it right in there. Now, the way these calipers are built, this is a dual piston caliper. There's 2 pistons, and there's a little bracket here in the way, so we have to do it kind of one side at a time. But you slide it in there. You slide it in there where it fits, and then you start opening up this clamp. I'm going to move this light out of the way, put it down here. So just twist this screw and we'll slowly compress that back down. If it starts getting a little cockeyed, or if this one's going down quicker than this one, you can release it and change sides over here. In fact, let's go ahead and do that. Bring it right over, and you can see those pistons retract back up into the caliper. You just keep doing that, changing sides until it's completely compressed, because those new pads are so much thicker than what was in there. You're going to need that extra room to get it all put back together. And you'll feel it when it stops. You just can't go any further. Right there is the last of it. Now we'll change sides and get that other one even. Get that pressed on down. And that's it. Get rid of that. And now this is ready to slide back on over the new pads we just installed. Get our light repositioned here. Reinstall our bolts. Put a little lube on these. A little bit of WD-40 just so they go in easy and come out a little easier next time maybe. I'm going to start these by hand again. Just so we don't cross thread anything. Those are started. And we get our 12mm socket. And tighten everything back down. And these do not have to be torqued down too tight. They want to be snug, but they don't need to be crazy tight. Because So these do not need to be torqued down super tight. And you want to get them snug for sure, but you're not looking to so these do not need to be super tight. They need to be snug, but you don't need to torque them down real hard. All right, so that's got us all back together. We're ready to put the wheel and lug nuts back on, and then this thing's ready to go. All right, so that's got this wrapped up. We're ready to put the wheel, the tire and wheel and lug nuts back on, and then this side should be done. Now I've got to do the other side, which is exactly the same as this. So I'm probably not going to film that. I'll go get that taken care of, and then we'll wrap this up.